Hello and welcome to the Indiana Farmers Market Community of Practices July webinar, Selling Pet Treats and Raw Milk for Pets at Indiana Farmers Markets. I am Christina Ferroli, the Grants Program Coordinator for the Indiana Cooperative Development Center. Today we have with us Katie Simpson. Katie is the Pet Food Specialist with the Office of Indiana State Chemist. In this role, Katie regulates pet food through labeling reviews and compliance. This includes homemade pet treats and raw milk. She is a member of the Association of American Feed Control Officials and serves on the Pet Food and Ingredient Definitions Committees, along with many work groups within these committees. Katie received her Bachelor's of Science degree in Animal Agribusiness from Purdue University in 2002. After obtaining her degree, Katie worked on a swine feed research farm as a nursery research specialist. She then came back to Purdue and worked in animal husbandry with the many species of teaching and research animals in the College of Veterinary Medicine. While in this role, Katie obtained certifications for laboratory animal technician through the American Association for Laboratory Animal Science. I want to remind everyone to please remain muted during the webinar. However, we want this webinar to be participatory. So if you have questions, either raise your hand using the icon, or we will call on you if you drop your question in the chat, and there will be time for questions at the end. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As Christina said, my name is Katie Simpson. I'm with the Office of Indiana State Chemist. So the State Chemist Office regulates animal feed for the state of Indiana. And we also regulate pesticides, fertilizers, and seed for the state of Indiana. And now we regulate hemp, the growing of hemp. So I only do the pet food for Indiana. I review all pet food labels coming into Indiana for any product coming into Indiana. So that can be from all over the world. If you can, are you able to see my screen, which should be our website? Is that what you see?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
Yep.
So our website is oisc.purdue.edu. And then if you come into the yellow menu bar and feed and pet food, and then what gets confusing even for me is, so this says animal feed, so that's mainly for our livestock feed. But if you go to the gray menu bar here and hit pet food home. So now we're on the pet food, but if you go to resources, this is where you will find a lot of useful information. For licensing, we have pet treat label examples and raw milk label examples. And then we have information for getting your commercial feed license and for labeling of raw milk and pet treats. Okay, so what I'm going to be going through is I want to make and sell pet treats. So I get a call or two every day about wanting to make and sell homemade pet treats in Indiana. And and I'm sure you have seen these in your farmers markets. So what do I need to do first in order to sell animal food, pet food, treats, raw milk in Indiana? You have to get an Indiana commercial feed license. And I know that sounds big and scary, but that's just what it's called. It's called a commercial feed license. And this is regardless of how big the company is. It's regardless of if you're home-based. So I believe Indiana has a new home-based vendor law, but that does not apply to animal food, pet treats. So unfortunately, they still need to go through our office and obtain a commercial feed license. So the commercial feed license is $50 per year. And there are forms, the application form. And then if if the pet treats will be sold in packages of 10 pounds or less, each product is $50 per product for the inspection fees. So these forms will need to be filled out, mailed to our office, and with a check. Unfortunately, we do not have any online payments, and we are unable to accept credit cards at this time. I know we're a little far behind in times there. So this is an example of the forms here. There's a link to each form, but it's also, I'm going to switch real quick. When you hit forms on the website, you'll click this just takes you back to the animal feed, and the forms are here. So the commercial feed license form looks like this. I hope everyone can see this. I'm not sure how, I have an enormous screen here, so it's pretty big, but I can increase the size if it's pretty small. So this is what it looks like. And there are instructions for how to fill this out. I can increase it just a little bit there. So in this area here in the middle, this is where, so livestock feed is your horses, your cattle, sheep, goats. I guess most things fit into the livestock feed section. Pet food and treats. So pet food is just dog and cat. So a pet is just dog and cat. A specialty pet is anything, any of those little critters that you have in cages that you typically have in your home. There are some instances where rabbits are considered specialty pets, or sometimes they're considered livestock. So it depends on how they're raised and how the food product is labeled. So then you have your wildlife. And then we have a section that's just if you're selling ingredients. So even if you sell ingredients that go into animal food, you have to have a commercial feed license. And then in this section over here is the package size. So if it's packages 10 pounds or less, and it is a pet or specialty pet food, you have to fill out the form F3, which is our product listing form, and that's where the products are $50 per product. If they're bulk or by piece, which I will go into later, so that would be unpackaged. And then if they're in packages greater than 10 pounds. It didn't go back to the same page. So then your product listing form, it looks a little complicated, but it just, you know, if you go line by line, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we do have instructions on our website of how to fill this out. Okay. All right. So the main thing after getting the commercial feed license is product labeling. Now, so this is very important. There are rules and regulations for labeling of animal food products. And with the pet and specialty pet, there are a little bit different than your livestock feed. So all the labels must be reviewed by our office, which that is what I do. I review all the labels, and they must be in compliance with our commercial feed and pet food rules and regulations. And the labels must accompany the treat or food throughout distribution. And you can find more information. This is the references that I showed you on our website. So every label must have these items. Not every product has a brand name. So what this would be is, if you think of, let's just take, for example, Purina. Purina has different brands within their company. They have Purina One. Trying to think, they have a few different brands. So the brand name is different from the product name. So most of your homemade pet treats do not have a brand name. So you have the company name, you have a brand name, and you have a product name. So the product name, and then you have to have your intended species in words. A picture is not enough. We'll go through that in just a moment. And then the intended use, so that would be treat or snack or supplement or food. A guaranteed analysis, which we'll go into that a little bit more. That's the scariest part of this that a lot of folks are unsure of, but we'll go through that in a minute. And as long as you can get a lab analysis, it's not as scary as it seems. And you need the ingredients, and you need the directions for use, and then you need the manufacturer or distributor name. So that would be the company name, and then the city, state, and zip code, and then a quantity statement. So how much is in that package? Let me know if anything, like if the slide is too big and you can't see everything, or if it's too small, just let me know. So these are things that need to be on the label. And if you look over here on the left-hand side, these items here must be on the front of the label. And these items over here on the right can be anywhere else on the label. They can be on the front, back, side, bottom, as long as it's on there. But these items over here have to be on the front. So your brand name, if there is one, your product name has to be on the front. The intended species has to be on the front, and the intended use, and your quantity statement. So the product name, each product has to have its own unique product name. So it can be differentiated between, if you have several different products, they each need to have a unique name. So here we have an example of Bob's Biscuits. So would be your first product. And if you have a second product, Bob's Recipe 2 Biscuits. So the product naming rules is one of the most difficult things for folks to grasp. And it took me a little bit, to be honest. I've tried to break it down as much as possible. And so the thing is if you have a product that is just chicken, so you can call it Bob's Biscuits Chicken or Chicken Dog Treats. But if it has equal to or less than, or if it has 25% or less, you have to have a descriptor word in the product name. Oh, so this is greater than or equal to 25%. So chicken recipe, chicken formula, chicken entree. So it has to have a descriptor word. So you cannot say if it's less than 95% chicken, you can't just say chicken. So it has to say chicken recipe or chicken formula. It has to have a descriptor word. So if there is 3%, only 3% or less of chicken, I'm sorry, 3% or greater. So between 25% and 3%, you have to say with chicken. And then if it's less than 3%, then chicken flavored or chicken flavor. See, I even get stumbled on. Oh, when we're talking about the percentage, this is the weight of the ingredient within the product. So the intended species has to be in words on the front of the package. A picture of a dog or a cat is not sufficient enough. It has to be in words. So the intended use, so we have treat or snack, must be on the front of the label. If treat or snack is not on the front of the label, then you must have the statement, this product is intended for intermittent or supplemental feeding only, on the label somewhere. This statement can be on the front, or it can be elsewhere on the label. And it has to be this statement verbatim. It has to say this statement exactly. So we have here an example, Bob's Biscuits Dog Treats. And it can be in the product name, or it can just be somewhere else on the label, on the front of it.
Katie, I'm sorry. Can you
Yeah.
shrink your percentage down just a little bit? We're not seeing
Yes.
the very bottom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Does this work?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So the intended use may be in the product name, or it can be elsewhere on the front of the package. So the guaranteed analysis. So the guaranteed analysis must be on the label. It can be anywhere on the label, but it just has to be there. It has to have the heading, guaranteed analysis, and it must be in the order, in this order here: crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, and moisture. The crude protein must be a minimum percentage. Crude fat must be a minimum percentage. Crude fiber must be a maximum, and moisture must be a maximum. Any voluntary guarantees, nutrient guarantees may be claimed, but they would have to follow after these 4. And if there are any nutrient claims anywhere else on the labels or on the website or social media or brochures, those nutrients must be guaranteed. So if they say high in omega-3 fatty acids, the omega-3 fatty acids must be guaranteed. If they say high in calcium or contains calcium, then they have to guarantee those nutrients. So the guaranteed analysis can be anywhere on the label. And to get the guarantee analysis, you would send the product to a food analysis lab, and you can find these labs online. Unfortunately, our office does not do this for service. We test products for regulatory purposes and for cause purposes, which it talks about that a little bit later. And we do not recommend, or we cannot recommend one lab over the other. So unfortunately, a lot of people ask me, where should I send it? Unfortunately, I'm not able to recommend a lab. The ingredient statement, it has to be listed in order of predominance by weight from most to least. So if you have mostly chicken has to be listed first. If you have mostly wheat flour has to be listed first. All ingredients have to be AFCO approved, which is AFCO is the Association of American Feed Control Officials, which I can show their website here in a little bit. If one ingredient consists of multiple ingredients, those ingredients have to be listed too. So like whole wheat crackers have to be listed as whole wheat flour, eggs, soybean oil, salt. That's just an example. I have a lot of folks that if I give an example, they write my example completely. You have to write the ingredients that are in the product that you're using. So here's an example. So the ingredients. So if you have the whole wheat flour or the whole wheat crackers, and you also have peanut butter. So it can be whole wheat flour, peanuts, soybean oil, and sugar and salt. So notice the peanuts got put in front of some of the ingredients here because in the ingredients of the whole wheat crackers, because the peanuts weighed more than some of these others. But you can also do whole wheat crackers, and then in parentheses, its ingredients, and then the peanut butter and its ingredients. We do accept peanut butter written in alone in the ingredient statement, but one thing that everyone needs to make sure is that the peanut butter is not containing the artificial sweetener. Is it artificial? But it's xylitol. Xylitol is toxic to at least to dogs. I'm not exactly sure on cats, but you would want to avoid that for any pet food. So the ingredients must be approved for use by the Food and Drug Administration or the Association of American Feed Control Officials. But you can always contact me to see if it's acceptable for use. And sometimes it's just the way you list the ingredient, because sometimes we in the animal food world, we use a different terminology than the human food. So again, here's just because it's safe for humans does not necessarily mean it's safe for pets. For example, these here, like chocolate, you cannot give to the pets. Now, garlic is listed here, and onions. So, but some pet foods do contain those at a very small amount for a flavoring, which is acceptable. So the directions for use. So if it's a complete and balanced diet, you have to have feeding directions that are stated for each life stage that the label is claiming. So if it's claiming all life stages, then it has to have feeding directions for the reproduction, growth, and for maintenance of adults. If it's just claiming for adult dogs, then the feeding directions just have to be for adult dogs. And then if it's a complete and balanced diet, it has to conform to the AFCO nutrient profile for the intended species. So that gets a little more complicated. But most of the time, I think in the farmers markets, you're going to see treats and snacks. So with the treats and snacks, they must state treat or snack on the front of the label. Or again, it has to state this product is intended for intermittent or supplemental feeding only, somewhere else on the label. Now, this is something I'm going to have to change on these slides is, yes, it can say feed as treat, but this is, if treat or snack is not on the front of the package, then this statement here has to be on the label. This is not sufficient if treat and snack is not on the front. So the directions for use here again, if treat is not on the front, then this would not be, feed as a treat cannot be by itself. So you need this statement here. If it's a complete and balanced diet, then it has to have a nutritional adequacy statement, so that it has to be verbatim. So Bob's dog food is formulated to meet the nutritional levels established by the AFCO dog food nutrient profiles for maintenance. And again, if anyone wants to do complete and balanced diet, I can help walk them through that a little more. So the manufacturing information, this would be the responsible party. So that's your company, the name of the company or business has to match the name on the Indiana commercial feed license. So if the company name is Paw Prints, then that's what the needs to be on the commercial feed license. And then the label has to have the city, state, and zip code of the company. And then the mailing address, so your street address can be on the label, but it is not required as long as you can be found in a directory, which directories are getting, printed directories are getting few and far between. But websites, social media, email addresses can be on the labels, but it cannot take the place of the city, state, and zip code. So again, this can be anywhere on the label. The quantity statement must be in on the front, and it must be if it is in weight, it has to be in English and metric units. So that would be ounces and grams. Okay, so this is the fact of putting English and metric units on the labels is not in our feed, in our Indiana commercial feed law, but it is in the, I wrote it down, Fair Packaging and Labeling Act through the federal government. So, but you can put count on there instead. So you can say 6 treats. There's an example where the quantity statement is supposed to be on the bottom third of the label. So there's an example of a count and a weight. So both of these, just one or the other needs to be on there. Okay, so here we have, let me check my time. Okay. Here we have if the treats are distributed to customers in packages greater than 10 pounds or in bulk by piece. So bulk by piece is not pre-packaged. And I have a picture here in a little bit. So if it's greater than 10 pounds, or if it's unpackaged, they must file a quarterly tonnage report. And the minimum fee for this is $5 per calendar quarter, or 40 cents a ton, whichever is greater. But in order to be over $5 a calendar quarter, I believe it comes out to you have to sell over 25,000 pounds of homemade dog treats in 3 months. So that doesn't happen very often for the home base. So the quarterly tonnage reports are mailed at the end of each quarter from our office. So there is an example of a quarterly tonnage report on our website. This is, let's see, this is the quarterly tonnage report here. And it looks super scary. But for pet treats, it is pretty easy to fill out. And I have an example here in a minute of how to fill it out. But this is for all companies selling all livestock feed, ingredients. So here, they have to fill out what they've got. But we have a section, if I can find it. Here we go. We have a section for small animal and pet foods. So let's see if I can pull up so like I said, the form looks really scary, but all I have to do is put treat and less than a ton. This would be on your page 4. And I have this to send out to folks if they need help with that. And then this is on page 4, these 2 sections here. And then on page 1, it's just less than 1 ton and $5. Now, the problem is these quarterly tonnage reports have to be filled out and mailed back to our office with a $5 check every calendar quarter, whether product is being sold or not. And if the tonnage report is late, it's a $50 late fee or 10% of fees due, whichever is greater. So here's an example of the small package, pre-packaged products. which is $50 per product per year. And they are less than 10 pounds, or the tonnage option, which is $5 per calendar quarter. And here's an example of your unpackaged. Are there any questions so far? Well,
We
here
do
we
have
have.
We do
Yes.
have a couple, Katie. Do you want
Okay.
to address
Sure.
these at the end and just keep going?
Sorry, I
You have
forgot
plenty
to
of time.
look at the chat. I apologize.
That's okay. If you want to keep going, we can circle back around and do questions at the end. Up to you.
So real quickly, let me I can answer some of these because what's left on these slides are some common questions and answers. So so this question says, if there's a vendor at our farmers at the market that sells whole chicken for human consumption processed at a USDA inspected facilities, do they need to have a pet license to sell the chicken livers processed at the same facility, frozen at the market as pet treats? Okay, so this is a really good question because it depends. So FDA, I've been taking a lot of FDA training here recently, and FDA always says it depends. So if the chicken livers are raw, okay, and they're not ground and they're not mixed or intermixed with other ingredients, then they, as long as they are not labeled as treat, snack, food, and don't have any nutritional claims, they are exempt from our commercial feed law. So raw meat, okay, raw meat that's not ground, mixed or intermixed with other ingredients, is exempt from our feed law. So with the chicken livers, they would just have to say for dogs. Okay, they could not say dog treat. If it says treat, it is subject to the commercial Indiana commercial feed laws. Did that answer your question there for those chicken livers?
What about if you freeze dry them? Take raw chicken livers and freeze dry them. Is there any specifics that you have to have with that?
So freeze drying is changing so frozen is fine, but freeze drying is changing it, and dehydrating is changing it. So those are those would fit under our feed law.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you need any more clarification on that, please let me know. And it every single day I get a different scenario. So raw meat. Go ahead.
I just have a clarifying question.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's packaged for human consumption, the chicken livers or whatever, and they just have signage saying good for pets also. Is that appropriate? And
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and it's packaged as chicken livers from the processor.
So as long as they're not saying treat or food,
Okay.
that's or as long as if they just say good for dogs, buy one for your dog, that's fine. But if they say dog treat or dog food, then it's they got to have a feed license.
Okay, so they can just basically advertise, we have chicken livers for your dogs, and they're fine.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, if the species is part of the product name, is that sufficient? Or is it required to have a separate call out? No, if it's part of the product name, then that's fine, just as long as that the species is in words on that front of that package. So banana flavored dog treats, hopefully that makes sense. Allison, if you have need more clarification on that, let me know. So, Christina, as far as the list of labs, again, unfortunately, I cannot recommend one lab or another. So, to be honest, I do have a list of some labs. I have that list because the folks that do not have access to the internet, I have that list to mail out. But it may not be completely current, and because a lab is on there or not on there doesn't mean anything. There's a lot more options than what's on that list. But I do have that just for the folks that don't have access to the internet. Does that make sense, Christina?
Yes. Yeah, because I totally completely understand that. Sometimes just Googling doesn't really give you what, the correct information you have. So I was curious if you just had a list of possible labs as a starting point, but I agree with, I see your point. It wouldn't be an all-inclusive or up-to-date list. So,
Right.
yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, you're welcome. I think I updated it in 2020 because it was way outdated. And the thing is, you have to search for food analysis labs or pet food analysis labs, because I did find out that if folks do, if they search labs, they get all the medical labs. So food analysis labs. And you want to call around to get the best price, because there is a wide variety of pricing. I've heard as low as $45 a sample, and I've heard as much as $200 a sample. And this is just to get those 4 guarantees: the crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, and moisture. So to actually get a full analysis for a complete and balanced of all the nutrients that are listed in the AFCO nutrient profiles, I found out it is at least $2,400. So I can, I see for the PowerPoint presentation emailed, it is on our website. Is that sufficient, or would you, because I can send you I can email the link to this PowerPoint presentation, or did you need it emailed? Because I do update it on the website. So,
So one thing I can do is, Katie's information is on the INFMCP website under resources, and I can make sure that I add presentation with the link directly to it. So all you'd have to go is to our website, and her homepage is also highlighted in that section. And everything she's talked about is listed with the links to it. So if you want, I can add presentation to it. And that way people can just go to one location and then find your site, basically, if that helps. Or we can also send this out after the webinar.
Okay, so Andrew, I did answer your question about raw meats that are freeze dried, correct?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. So Nate asked if we send you a label to have it, can we send you a label to have it reviewed? Absolutely. Because you'll want to have the label or and you guys may not be the ones that are making the treats, but the label should be reviewed before any printing expenses occur, because most likely there'll need to be some revisions made. And so I don't want anyone to spend money before printing the labels. Unfortunately, this happens a lot, especially with your bigger companies. And they spend tens of thousands of dollars on labels, and then they have to change them. So I'm not always everyone's favorite person. The labels can be emailed to me. They can be mailed to me. I get them faster. I get to them faster if they're emailed to me. And my contact information is at the end of these slides, and it's on the website. And Christina has my contact information also. Let's see. Stephanie is asking, do you foresee pet treats needing to be created in the ISDH commercially inspected kitchen in the future with new laws for produce growers, potentially for college laws changing? I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that just because animal food pet treats are going to stay under the Indiana commercial feed law, which does not require it to be in a commercially inspected kitchen. But for the human grade claims, which I'll get to in just a minute, it does need to be in a licensed human food facility. Okay, so you guys may have had a chance to read this already. So if you have 3 types of biscuits, if they're pre-packaged in packages 10 pounds and under, it is $50 per product. So it would be $50 annually for the license and $50 per product. So that's $200. But if you're selling them in bulk or by piece, then it fits under our tonnage system, which it would be $50 per year for the feed license, and then $5 per calendar quarter. So that's a total of $70 per year. No matter how many, you can have 60 treats, and as long as you're not going over the $5 minimum per calendar quarter, it's still $70 per year. So that's a little cheaper. That's how we try to help the smaller companies. If you sell it in bulk unpackaged, it's a lot cheaper. So here, if it's prepackaged, it is $50 per year per product. The label must be on the container, or there is an option of multiple treats and having that are unpackaged by bulk, and they can have the customer has to be able to see the label information. So let me see if I can pull this up here. I have this example of a printout that could be available at the point of sale that has the company name, the city, state, and zip code, and then dog treats. And then you got your product name, your ingredients, and your guaranteed analysis for each product. So this can be available at the point of sale. It can be available for the customer to take a picture of it. It can be available to hand out to the customer. Or it can be put on the containers that are holding the bulk treats. So we have, for clarification, the clear plastic baggie with dog treats. Should they have a label? Yes. So here it says you must label each bag, and the $50 annual fee must be paid. This is just a picture showing them in little packages. So yes, the label must be on each bag.
Thank you.
If they're
Unless
prepackaged.
unless they're packaging it that way as bulk, right? So
So this is a little confusing picture,
Yeah.
isn't it? Okay. No. This picture has been on here for a long time. Our previous feed administrator actually added these. So if this container here that I'm circling is for the customer to reach in and grab however many they want, or say, hey, I want 10 of these, the label would need to be on this. Or if this is being sold for the customer to just take the whole thing, this needs to have a label on it. These clear plastic baggies, if they're being sold like this in the packages, they have to have the label on there. So Kate is asking if a treat has been approved for label and ingredient doesn't change, is it still $50 each year? Can you, I'm not sure I understand the question 100%. Kate, if you want to
I think,
clarify that.
Katie, I think they're asking if they're making dog treats, is it a $50 each year you have to file that your business is operating, or is it a one and done? Like you file 50 years when you submit, or $50 when you submit,
Yeah,
and you're
no,
good for
what I'm,
life, or
can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, what I'm asking is, okay, I paid my $50 last year for my license, and then I understand that the renewal, which is coming up, is $50 for each year. I also had my labels approved by you last year. I am selling the same ingredients, same labels, same, haven't changed anything. Do I need to submit every single year the same product if it's been approved by you for a
So,
label?
okay. So if nothing has changed, then no, I don't need to see the label again. If absolutely nothing has changed, the only time I need to see labels is for new products being submitted, and if revised labels, any labels that have changed.
Okay, so any new or revised would be a new $50 fee then, correct?
Oh, sorry. When it comes to the money, it is every single year, no matter what. So the license is $50 per year, and then for the products, it is $50 per year.
Per product.
Yes, per year.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but as far as labels go, the only time I need to see a new label is if it's a brand new product, or if the label has changed, so it's a revised label. But yes, the
Right.
fees. So the fees are inspection fees. So that pays for. And all companies are paying the same fees. So it is for label reviews, but it's also for our inspectors. Our inspectors take, which I have a slide about that here in a minute. Our inspectors take random samples of products throughout the year, and in our office samples them for compliance.
Okay,
So,
then along with that, a second, I'm sorry to have so much more time, but on top of that, then, does that mean that I also need to send in the guaranteed analysis if the product ingredient hasn't changed?
no.
Okay.
So
Only if I've revised the ingredient or the product.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is your the guaranteed analysis is, they're the first two are minimum values, and the second two are maximum values. So if you have products that are very similar, okay, one's peanut butter, one's apple, they may have this, you may be able to put the same guaranteed analysis on the label, because again, you have your minimum, it's a minimum and maximum. So when it comes to the lab analysis, your minimum values are to be set below the actual lab analysis, and the maximum values are to be set above the laboratory analysis.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So that's why it doesn't have to be exact. So if you change, maybe you add a little bit more flour. To be honest, you may be able to keep the same guaranteed analysis, or just adjust it a little bit.
Right. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Great. Okay. Thank you. I owe you money then. My year has
inspection
come
fee
up for that.
So Stephanie says she thinks that it's always a good idea to submit the labels through for each year to make sure nothing has changed from regulation standpoint. So as far as, and that's fine. but I am the only one in the state of Indiana that is reviewing these labels for compliance, and I have quite a stack that I'm trying to get to. So nothing has changed much in the Indiana commercial feed law. Now this is a whole. I'm gonna give you a little thing here that there could be some big changes coming up through AFCO, but Indiana is going to be a little slower on adopting these changes. They're called the pet food labeling modernization. But even through AFCO, there's going to be about a 6 to 8 year 6 to 8 year time to implementation time. So, but just take that information and store it in the back of your mind. So, oh yeah, Stephanie creating more work for me. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm having trouble keeping up with the ones I currently have, the new products and revised labels. So the new products get the new licenses for new companies get reviewed absolutely as quickly as I can. Sometimes the revised labels kind of sit on the back burner, unfortunately. Okay, let's see if I have one recipe formula for dog treats and I sell bones. Okay, so the shapes do not matter as long as the product name is not different. So if it just says pumpkin dog treats or pumpkin recipe dog treats, the shapes, sizes do not matter. But let's see if that's on the next slide. No. Okay, but if you say pumpkin recipe cat shaped or bone shaped, and that's part of the product name, then that's going to be a different product. If you say pumpkin recipe dog treats small bones, okay, and this is where we try to give a little bit of a break. If it's small bones, large, or let's say small bones, large bones, medium bones, okay, we try to give you a little bit of a break on that. Okay, some states don't. Some states it's every single shape, size, everything is a different product. Indiana tries to give a little bit of a break on that. But if you say pumpkin recipe large bones for large breed dogs or dogs 50 pounds and over, so if you mention the size of the animal, then it is a different product. If you put icing on one and not icing on another, those are two different products. So the variety pack is a little bit tricky here. If they're all mixed in the package together, then there is one ingredient statement and one guaranteed analysis. But down here, if they are packaged separately within that outer package, then the label needs to have a guaranteed analysis and ingredient statement for each product that's within the variety pack. If I add bouillon treats, bouillon to my treats, can I call it beef flavored? Yes. Because that would impart could impart a flavor. Here, you know, to get the guarantee analysis, you can send to a lab. I'm going to speed up just here a little bit because there's a couple questions that I really want to get to. Here's where I mentioned the we take random samples. We collect about 3,000 samples of animal foods each year, and our labs sample them and analyze them for their guaranteed analysis. And if they get for livestock feed, there are feeds that contain drugs, not in pet food or specialty pet food. There's no drugs in pet and specialty pet food at all. Okay. But in your livestock feed, there is medicated feed, and our office tests for those drugs to make sure that they're following the regulations and what the FDA requirements are for potency. We also, if somebody calls me and has a concern that a food product made their pet sick, then pet sick or unfortunately, sometimes they passed away. I investigate those concerns. I think there's a slide on this a little bit later. And with working with the veterinary that saw the animal, we will try to figure out what to test the food for. Unfortunately, we are not CSI. And we cannot put a sample in and test it for absolutely everything. And it's not done by the end of the hour, like on the shows, but we will try to, working with the veterinary and working with the Animal Disease and Diagnostic Laboratory at Purdue and the experts there, we try to come up with what could be the potential culprit for the illness or death, and we will sample and test the product for that. But a lot of times we don't know. So if you make your treats at home, do we inspect your kitchen? Well, normally not. We have inspectors out there that go to the feed mills, but under normal circumstances, we're not going to come to your kitchen. We are allowed to come to your home-based kitchen and do an inspection, but under normal circumstances, we don't. But if there is a complaint, we may need to come investigate. This is a this is something I deal with a lot here is people want to say all natural. Well, yeah, you can say all natural as long as it's true. Unfortunately, baking powder is not a natural product. Baking soda is a natural product, but baking powder is not. So what I run into a lot is a product will contain baking powder and then the label or labeling. So labeling includes your websites, social media, brochures, anything that is tied to that product, not tied to physically, but it is associated with that product is considered labeling, and all of that has to be in compliance. So if the labeling says all natural, but the product contains baking powder, unfortunately, you cannot say all natural. This is a big one, big one. Can I put that my treats are human grade? Most likely, if you are a home-based vendor, no, unfortunately. In order to make this claim on any labels or labeling, you have to provide this documentation to our office, and you have to substantiate that all the ingredients and the resulting product are processed, handled, stored, and transported in a manner compliance with 21 CFR 117 for human food. It has to be in a licensed human food facility. Produced in a licensed human food facility, and I need supplier specification sheets for each ingredient and letters of guarantee from each supplier that the ingredients are fit for human consumption. And I think also I have to have documentation that the products are stored, and transported in a manner compliance with the human food regulations. Any questions before I get it? The raw milk is pretty short, but any questions before I get into the raw milk? So, and I understand that a lot of the home-based dog treat vendors are going to your human grocery store and buying the ingredients and making it in your kitchen where you make your own food. But unfortunately, there are guidelines for calling the products human grade and the product as a whole. Okay. So it can't just be called human grade ingredients. And I have this this discussion with a lot of big companies. There's a lot of confusion on this, and they may use human grade ingredients, but unfortunately, if it's not made in a facility that is a licensed human food facility, they cannot claim the human grade. And a lot of it is they don't put it on their product label, but it's all over their website. So I have to review and regulate websites too. So add that to the stack of the labels. All right. So can I sell raw milk in Indiana? Yes, but it has to be labeled as animal food. Mainly pet treats that's a pet treat, pet snack, or pet supplement is the easiest way to label it. The label has to have all the same labeling information as pet treats, but it must have the statement "not for human consumption" prominently on the front of the label. So same thing. Raw milk has to have all the same information, except for the addition of "not for human consumption." So here is my contact information. I'll leave this up here for just a moment. There are pet treat label examples and raw milk label examples on the website, and I can point that out here in just a moment. Can I go ahead and show you? Has everyone had enough time to either jot this down or take a picture of it? Okay. So if we go back to pet food and to resources, here we have, let me see if I can. Oh, Nate, you got my picture in there. So here again, we have pet treat label examples, which I can, I can click on that. Let me see here. So there's two examples here. We have peanut butter flavored treats for dogs. So these are just very simple. And again, any claims that is put on the labels or labeling, I have to review those too. So I found out that I was getting labels such as this, and I was accepting them. Again, they're, let me say, unfortunately, I cannot say that I approve any labels. Sometimes I'll say I accept them, but here even more recently, I've been advised to say no, no revisions needed, because we do not approve any products. Okay. So I found out that I would be sent a label such as this, and then I find out that this is on the package, but so are a whole bunch of other things that were not acceptable. A whole bunch of claims. For example, well, here's another example of, so the difference between these two, let me scroll back up here real quick. So here we have treats, the word treats. Okay. The second one just says for dogs. So that's why this statement, since treat is not on here, that's why this statement is on here. Okay. One of the biggest things is animal foods, pet foods, even human foods cannot have drug claims on them. There is a difference between a food and a drug. In the animal world, a product is either a food or a drug. Okay. Even your supplements, okay, a supplement can be a food or a drug. And it depends on, so our office, the Office of Indiana State Chemist, only regulates food products. So if it is a nutritional supplement, if it is a food supplement, that is regulated by our office. But if it is a drug supplement, and drug sounds scary, but it's all with the intended use. Okay. So for example, let's take a human product example, and it is your antacid. Okay. Your antacid. And then you have a calcium supplement. Okay. So there's two different products. One is a drug and one is a food. So if it's a calcium supplement, it's supplying a nutrition, it is a food. If it is to help with acid reflux, then indigestion, then it is a drug. So it depends on the intended use. And it took me a long time to really grasp all that. And it depends on the label. So CBD oil and hemp oil and hemp seeds is not acceptable for use in animal food. So if there are CBD dog treats, it is misbranded and adulterated, and we will place it on stop sale. If it is labeled as a non-food, so therefore drug, non-food item, then our office does not have jurisdiction over it. Okay, that fits under the FDA. So no CBD and no CBD oil, no hemp seeds, no hemp oil. None of that is acceptable in animal food. Now, there are a few states that are allowing it now, but Indiana is not at this time. Let's go back to the raw milk. So here, this is it's basically the same thing, but you have the not for human consumption. Now, not for human consumption can be placed on the dog treat labels too. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with placing that statement on there, but it has to be on the raw milk. Okay. So Indiana pet food sales information that talks about for complete and balanced diets. Indiana pet treat sales information handout, that's for the pet treats. And then we have information for the raw milk product sales. So raw milk products includes obviously your raw milk, and it includes raw butter, it includes raw cottage cheese, it includes raw yogurt, all of those things. Is there any questions? Okay. So I mentioned the Association for American Feed Control Officials. They did discuss whether to change feed to food, but they have not done that. So if you go to resources, so this is AAFCO.org, AAFCO at .org. If you go to the resources tab, for startups, see all this information over here. It's a lot of helpful, useful information. Let's see romance claims. Let's see what that is. So here it talks about the drug claims. So you cannot say that it prevents a disease. You cannot say that it makes a disease better. You cannot say that so it cannot, pet foods and animal foods cannot claim to make a bad system better. Okay. Through nutrition, they can claim to support a healthy system, to maintain a healthy system, but they cannot claim to make a bad system better. The big thing is it truthful and not misleading? Is it true, and can you prove it? Because most states are going to say, prove this claim to me. So for the labels, I review the labels, I review the labeling, so websites and social media, plus I have to review all the human grade claim documentation, and I have to review all the, if I say, prove this claim to me, I have to review all that documentation too. So there again, this has a lot of useful information. Oh, something I should have said this in the beginning. But I guess you are recording this, right? So those of folks that were able, had to jump off can view this later. If you sell online through a website, through social media, through any e-commerce site, Etsy, let's see, Facebook Marketplace. Okay. If you ship your product to another state, you must be licensed in that state. Okay. So once you're licensed in Indiana as an Indiana company, unfortunately, that doesn't mean anything to sell into another state. So in order to get, you're seeing the AFCO website here, correct?
Yes, Katie, we are.
Okay, wonderful. It doesn't have the green line around it saying I'm sharing it. So I just wanted to double check. So if you go to, let's see if it's under, they recently updated their website, and I'm still trying to figure out how to, I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate this new one here. Nate mentions that the process of other states is no joke. Yeah. Some states are even more particular than Indiana. Indiana is one of the more particular states, but there are a couple states that are more particular than Indiana with labeling. Some states have more expensive inspection fees. Some have less expensive inspection fees. So it's all different. So if I go to for industry, oh no, okay. So I'm under the resources tab here. If you go to find a feed control official. So it brings up this nice map, and you click on the state. And it's working on pulling it up here, it looks like. So here's Michigan. So this tells you how to get in contact with them. Okay. Down here, it has the registration information. So there's licensing and there's product registration. Now, Indiana does not call it product registration. We call it product listing, and we call it inspection fees. Okay. So, but some states call it product registration. So their manufacturing and distribution license is $100. Ours is only 50. Theirs is 100. All of Indiana commercial feed license expire December 31st of each year. Okay, so
Okay.
they go
So
from
it's a yearly.
yes. But the reason I mentioned December 31st is see they go from July 1st to June 30th. Okay. So so there you can get any state. So let me just pull this Indiana up and show you that. Make sure it has the correct information. So here it doesn't, I guess not all of them show the licensing and registration fees. So here this tells you how to get a hold of us. Okay. So is there any questions?
Come here, Jeffrey, get closer to the call.
I think you hit everybody's question. We covered a lot. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I can talk forever about this stuff. So I apologize for taking you 20 minutes over.
No, you covered a lot of ground and provided a lot of good information that, like you said, is recorded. So people will go back, and I will also note in our newsletter that your recording is available for people just to listen to it. And then if they have questions, they can touch base with you. I think this is important. The way we do business has changed, like you said, and you just have to be careful that you're doing, if you do want to sell at another market, like across the state line, make sure that's okay as long as you're following that state's regs. So thank you, Katie. We really appreciate this. One last call for questions. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Great webinar. And we appreciate everybody's participation. And we'll catch you next month. Have a
Thank
good one.
you so much. Let me know if you have any questions. You can contact me.